I mean, I have to admit that I'm not sure in terms of the process because, quite frankly, depending upon what Senator Hutchinson does, she may decide to come home and resign to come home. That would give the governor an opportunity to make an appointment. Uh, we're trying to position ourselves so that I'm the person that he appoints. If he does that, I'm not so sure that you have a crowded field. But let's say that doesn't happen. Let's say we end up with 4 or 5 or Republicans and 4 or 5 Democrats in that race. As I said, I think this is a unique time for someone who is a consistent conservative, who is going to be courageous enough to fight, who believes and who cares more about what the people of Texas care about him than the Washington Post, but who also has the capacity not to simply say no, even though there's going to be a whole lot of no that has to be said to President Obama, but also that's creative and will take our conservative principles and apply it to health care, apply it to education, apply it to energy, apply it to a range of challenges that are in front of us. And those are the kinds of things that I've been doing for some period of time. So, but we will have to wait and see how the race gets set up. I think what's interesting, I think Republican voters should just look at me in 10 years and see what I've done in 10 years. In 10 years, that's why I said about being a consistent Republican. In the last 10 years, we've held the line on the size of government. The Railroad Commission today is 300 plus employees smaller than it was when I became a railroad commissioner. We have requested in a very narrow band additional dollars for the Railroad Commission. I was one that tried to make the case to our voters that I understand that the word public servant, that phrase, the public and the servant, extremely important. That's why I turned down the $45,000 pay raise that was given to us in the executive branch. So I think all voters have to do is to look at my record. And that record has been one that has been one of great consistency. It's even been consistent when it may not have benefited, when it may have benefited me to do something otherwise. Well, my impression is one of disappointment. There's no doubt that the president is someone who is young and articulate, but unfortunately he hasn't came in on a wave of a notion of hope and change. But unfortunately, the president has been nothing more than sort of a traditional Washington liberal. You think about some of the first things that he's done in these first 7 weeks. Closed Gitmo, didn't really understand where he was going to put the people. Then reversed the Bush executive order with regards to now this country is going to start funding international abortions. Today, reversed the Bush executive order, so now we're going to go back and start funding embryonic stem cells. Then, in the stimulus package, expanding the reaches of welfare. I mean, welfare reform occurred under a Democratic president, Bill Clinton, in 1996, and now in just 7 weeks, this president has reversed that. And we're also seeing, that there may be challenges to other rights of ours, whether it be the right to bear arms, the right to have a secret ballot for unions. And so I have to admit, in 7 weeks, I've become quite disappointed. And I think all you have to do is look at the market. The market has as well. As the market is betting forward about what may happen in the future, the market is saying, where he's talking about going is the wrong direction to go when he's talking about increasing taxes in the middle of a recession. Well, we've talked about a range of them. We've talked about energy and immigration. We talked about, obviously, issues regarding life and culture. We've looked at questions with regards to how we go about the business of creating or reestablishing an America that's competitive with our competitors around the world, because we're in an environment now where we're competing for people, capital, and talent. And that's one of the reasons why you've got to hold down spending. That's one of the reasons I signed the Taxpayer Protection Pledge. That's one of the reasons why I think as a country we ought to look very, very seriously at establishing a flat rate income tax, so that our competitors around the world are doing the same thing. And so we've got to do just as much in order to be competitive. One of the things that probably you won't hear as much about is what I believe is the need for us as Republicans and as conservatives to have what I would call an urban agenda for the 21st century. That's a conservative agenda for the 21st century, where we get seriously and active about obviously expanding our conversation with regards to, choice in schools, bringing back welfare reform, as a matter of fact, looking at the whole notion of enterprise zones so that we can spur development and activity in lower income areas, including those that are in rural America and rural Texas. I think one of the things that we have to do in today's society is that we as electeds have to go where voters are. In the old days, we could stand back and wait for the voter to come to us, or we could take our press release and shout at the voter and say, look at me, this is what we've done. I think right now, voters and constituents want to have a conversation with the electeds and with policymakers. In order for us to have that conversation, I just think it makes a whole lot more sense rather than to wait for them to come to me, is that I go where they are. So we're using every kind of tool and vehicle to get in that conversation where they are, whether it is our webpage, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter, whether it's YouTube. We're trying to have that conversation because I want to have that conversation. I want to be back and forth with those voters, with those constituents.